Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Masa, for that. I too am always glad when our paths cross, and it's special to me that you made that introduction. I'm delighted to be here, and I'm honored to have an opportunity to speak at today's session. And I want to thank the Council's leadership, especially Chairman Eno and Irene Hirano-Inoue. Thank you very much. I applaud your work and that of your members. Your mission to encourage productive relationships between the U.S. and Japan resonates with all of us at Prudential. At Prudential, we call Japan our second home because of our history and the importance to us of our presence in Japan. And personally, having worked at Prudential for many years, I've had the opportunity to admire the growth of our Japanese companies since the outset. So I welcome the chance to tell you the story. Our Japan story is one of people, relationships, and selective risk-taking. And it began with a leader who advocated a business strategy very different from traditional practices in Japan. And that strategy, consistently applied over many years, has produced high levels of client satisfaction and remarkable results for our firm. And before describing the strategy, let me give you just a little background on our history and on our leader, remarkable founding leader. Prudential first entered the life insurance market in Japan in 1979 through a joint venture with Sony. Ultimately, we wanted to expand our presence by opening a wholly owned insurance company. So in 1987, we launched Prudential of Japan, which we call POJ. The creation of POJ was driven by the vision of one man, Kiyo Sakaguchi, whose personal story illustrates the power of education, cross-cultural connections, risk-taking, and even life insurance. Here's his story. As a young man, Kiyo fulfilled a long-held dream when he traveled to the U.S. to attend college. At the time, it was unusual for a Japanese national to study in the U.S. And with the help of a chaplain in the U.S. military, Kiyo became the first Japanese student at Lebanon Valley College in Pennsylvania. In an English class at Lebanon Valley College, he met Joanne, a young American woman who offered to help him with his studies. Eventually, they fell in love, and they agreed to marry. Now, after graduation, Kiyo honored a promise to his father to return to Japan. But he was determined to rejoin his fiancée in the U.S. His father was just as determined that he remain in Japan. Sound familiar to anyone? Kiyo was in for a surprise. To ensure he could return to her, his fiancée cashed in a life insurance policy that her parents had purchased when she was born and had given to her as a graduation gift. And with that money, she purchased Kiyo a one-way ticket back to the U.S. So Kiyo did return to the U.S. and Joanne. They married and they raised 3 sons, one of whom, I'm pleased to say, works for Prudential in Tokyo today. After college, Kiyo obtained a master's degree in actuarial sciences from Northeastern University in Boston, and he became the first native of Japan to complete the U.S. actuarial exams. No small feat, I might add. He joined Prudential to help lead our JV with Sony, and then was named the first president of POJ. Kiyo proposed a new approach to insurance in Japan, namely selling insurance through a, carefully defined here, full-time force of carefully selected, highly trained, college-educated sales professionals. Now, why is that so innovative? Because at that time, most insurance in Japan was sold on a part-time basis by housewives. When Keogh first outlined this plan, many people questioned the wisdom of assuming the business risk of such a plan, namely, whether POJ could attract college-educated professionals to a career that was traditionally filled on a part-time basis by housewives. It was a huge business risk and cultural challenge, and very deliberately so. The POJ business model is easy to understand but hard to execute. I'll give you just a couple examples. It starts with hiring only the most qualified people as sales professionals, whom we call life planners. POJ is so selective that they hire only 3 out of every 100 candidates that they interview. And then, for every customer, our life planners conduct a rigorous, needs-based analysis to ensure their clients have the right coverage to meet their family's needs. All of this, the selectivity and the training, would be virtually impossible to do with a traditional part-time sales force. Keogh's idea started very slowly and with an obsession with quality, not scale. And he used the term missionary zeal to describe the way in which he and his colleagues executed the strategy. Prudential has been highly rewarded in the marketplace for the confidence that we placed in Keogh and the strategy. 2 measures really demonstrate the uniqueness of our life planners and the quality and nature of Keogh's success. So I'll just share with you these two figures. For 16 consecutive years, POJ has ranked number 1 in Japan based on the number of life planners who have qualified for the $1 Million Roundtable, which is the world's premier association for finance professionals. 16 consecutive years. Second, to put that in perspective, while POJ life planners account for only 1% of the total number of life insurance agents in Japan, they represent 25% of the country's $1 Million Roundtable members. 25%. Well, naturally, based on the success of this business model, we subsequently launched life planner operations in 7 other countries. And in doing so, we often relied on executives from POJ to help open similar businesses in Asia, Latin America, and Europe. In fact, if you visit Prudential of Brazil in Rio, you will see in the lobby a portrait of Keogh Sakaguchi. So you have a portrait of a Japanese businessman in the lobby of an American-owned Brazilian business. And that, my friends, always brings a smile to my face. Now, I had the good fortune to know Keogh for many, many years. He was a good friend, a peer, and someone I admired greatly. It was fun for me to talk about him. We lost him far too soon when he passed away suddenly in 2002. One of the last things I worked on with Keogh was fulfilling his dream of having a prominent company-owned headquarters, a building that is, in downtown Tokyo. Having started POJ in such a small and unconventional way, Keogh felt that a visible presence such as a headquarters building would be an important symbol of the permanence of our commitment to Japan. Now, I can tell you that every time I visit Tokyo, I make a point of staying in the same room in the same hotel, a room which provides me a marvelous view of the Prudential Tower off in the distance. And each time, I pause and reflect on how much Keogh has shaped the Prudential that it is today. Beyond the organic growth of POJ, we also have continued building our operations in Japan through several significant acquisitions. First, in 2001, still under Keogh's leadership, we acquired Kyoei Life, which was the 10th largest life insurance company in Japan and the largest bankruptcy in Japan since World War II. With the regulator's support, we acquired Kyoei, allowing its customers to keep their policies and their employees to keep their jobs. We renamed that company Gibraltar Life, wanting to keep the business and the branding separate from the highly unique business model of POJ. The acquisition of Kyoei Life dramatically expanded our operations, and that transaction set the stage for further growth, culminating in 2011 with our acquisition of Star and Edison Life from AIG, which we merged with Gibraltar. So what started, as Masa said earlier, what started more than 25 years ago as a small operation with a single idea has grown to be the largest foreign-owned life insurance company in Japan, with more than 10 million policies in force. And from having a single sales force of dedicated life planners, we've expanded into multiple distribution channels. And as Masa mentioned, today we have more than 20,000 employees in Japan, and those operations contribute nearly half of our company's earnings. Now, there's no doubt that the quality and continuity of our leadership has been a major factor of our success in Japan. In our 25 years of doing business in Japan, we have had 3 leaders, meaning Kyo and 2 Japanese successors. Quality and continuity of leadership really, really matter. Also during this time, we have enjoyed productive and respectful relationships with Japanese regulators. We have found them to be very supportive of our presence and our long-term commitment to the market. Prudential is clearly a better company as a result of what we've learned in Japan. And our success has helped turn us into truly a multinational company. And we're encouraging more and different forms of interactions between our leaders in Japan and those in the U.S. For example, in March, Rayan Doi, whom many of you know, was appointed our corporate chief ethics officer, not of Japan, but of the entire company, a role she will fill primarily from Tokyo. And we're looking for other innovative ways to draw on the talents of our employees in Japan to impact other parts of the world, as we did with Kyo many years ago. Over the years, we have celebrated many successes with our colleagues in Japan, but we've also been through some tough times, and clearly none darker than in March 2011 following the earthquake and tsunami. POJ's largest customer service center is in Sendai, the area hardest hit by the earthquake and the tsunami. While our facilities came through with little damage, the effect on many employees and the local community was profound. Despite the devastation and personal losses that many suffered, our colleagues in Japan inspired us, their incredible dedication and generosity. Our local teams were deeply engaged in recovery efforts from the start. Immediately after the earthquake, our service center became an emergency evacuation center. And within days, our leadership team in Tokyo began transporting supplies, many of those supplies donated by employees from all over the country. And for months, many employees and their families traveled to the region to help with the recovery. Our employees showed the same concern for customers. At POJ, teams contacted every single customer in the region to see if they needed assistance. And our people did that to ensure that every claim was processed as quickly as is possible. Now, Prudential and the Tomodachi Initiative. Prudential and our people continue to support efforts in Sendai and the surrounding area. Today, I'm delighted to say we're building on that commitment with a $1 million grant to support the Tomodachi Initiative. The goals of this program, like those of the Council, closely align with our objectives and values as a company, to build bridges and understanding between cultures, to foster the development of future generations of leaders, which is so critical, to lay the groundwork for even more productive partnerships between our two countries. Our donation to the Tomodachi program follows a $6 million grant we made in March 11 to support the recovery immediately after the earthquake. My wife, Mary Kay, and I visited Sendai in the summer of 2011. While we were there, I spoke at a town hall of 1,000 employees. And during my speech, another earthquake began shaking the building. The head of our companies in Japan, Kirishige-san, immediately turned to me and showed me his smartphone, flipped out his smartphone. And I was amazed to see that he had an app. Maybe many of you are familiar with this app. I hadn't seen it before. He had an app that showed both the magnitude of the quake, in this case it was 6.5 or something, and the epicenter, which was in this case near Fukushima. Just instantly shows up on his app. And so I said, Kirishige-san, I'm standing at the podium, Kirishige-san, what do you suggest I do? And he simply said, Strangfeld-san, not so big, not so close, carry on. That was yet another example of the spirit of Japan, a quality that I respect very much. Everyone at Prudential was in awe of the dedication and resilience of our colleagues in Japan. But we shouldn't have been surprised that that level of commitment to our customers and our communities is emblematic of what we strive for to be as a company, and frankly, they do it best. Once again, thank you for the opportunity to join you. I congratulate the entire council on all that's been achieved, and I look forward to working with you in support of you in the future. Thank you very much.